So tell us about your season so far, because I think, myself and Kel were talking, about how things have gone for you. You started off the season, in good shape and everything, and on the cusp of being in the World Championships, and maybe waiting for that call when a rider maybe gets injured or whatever, and getting your opportunity in maybe one or two rounds of the Speedway Grand Prix. But obviously things in Russia happened. You get the full call up. Take us back, first of all, to that moment when that phone call came to say that you're a full GP rider, and how that really affected your plans for the year ahead, because obviously that's a lot of stuff to take in, and how did that change your plans?
Yeah, to be honest, it didn't change a great deal. It was just, there's some added costs and everything with the GPs, and it was just to try and make sure. Obviously we're going to do everything we could to do it, but just to make sure we were going to be, in a good position. But no, I felt like I had everything was prepared good this year. The goal was to try and qualify for the GPs and do the best job I could in the league. So obviously there's certain things that would have been nice to have more time and to prepare, but as far as equipment goes and things like that, as far as the bikes go anyway, and physically, I felt like I was ready for it.
Yeah, it must have been kind of a pleasant surprise in lots of ways, because, it was unexpected, of course. But, were there any thoughts in your mind that you thought that you might not be ready? Obviously, you've had a couple of seasons riding for Wrocław at a very high level. And you were knocking on the door, but did you have any reservations about sort of thinking, well, maybe I oughtn't to go because maybe it might be a step too far?
Not at all, to be honest. I kind of just thought you're either going to go good, or if you struggle, you're just going to learn from it, and in the long run, it'll probably be good for you. So. It was just to try and make the most of it and just enjoy it.
Well, you've certainly done that. There's no question about that. It looks like you've had a smile on your face for the majority of the season, which is always great to see, because no doubt that Speedway does have its ups and downs. You suffered an injury a little earlier in the season, but you bounced back in fine style. I think your first meeting back, you went back to Leszno. And if I'm right, Dan, you can put me right if I'm wrong, but you broke the track record at Leszno, which is no mean feat in itself. So, you recovered really well, and because we worked together at Bellevue, and you'd hurt your knee, but you must have been chuffed to bits to be able to return after that break and be right back on top form.
Yeah, it was nice to be back, and you never know fully how it's going to be, coming back from an injury, but, I arguably, came back probably better than it was before I crashed. So, it's been good, and, I think since I crashed, my form for the rest of the season, it's been pretty good too. So, it's been, consistent and just steadily getting better.
Didn't you break the track record this weekend just gone as well at Czestochowa?
Yeah, on Sunday.
How many track records have you got now? Do you know?
Oh, a few, but I'm not sure. I lost count.
And we mentioned Gorzów there. I mean, if we're reflecting on the Grand Prix series, Gorzów was a meeting where possibly you came away from there a touch frustrated, because you got so very close to making your first final, just got outmaneuvered a bit in that semi-final. But after that meeting, did you sort of come away from that feeling, yeah, I can make finals, and I do believe that I can win Grand Prix now?
Yeah, it did change a little bit. I think from the start of the season in the qualifying, I've showed I can go fast, but that's not how you win GPs. You got to be consistent, racecraft, and also starts, and adapting with the track, with the bike. And in Prague I felt like I was fast, but I wasn't consistently making starts, and I didn't feel like I was in a position to really win there. Apart from, I think on the track I was good, but just not so much from the start. But in Gorjov, I felt like I was making good starts. I felt fast, and that was the first time I felt like I could win. And from there, maybe I didn't win and I didn't make the final, but it was the first time I had the feeling that I could do it.
So there was quite a break after Gorjov because there's no Russian Grand Prix, so quite a long time and a big long build up to go towards the Cardiff Grand Prix in the Principality. I don't know if that helped you or whether that was something that was weighed on you a little bit, but there's no doubt when I was walking around the streets of Cardiff, it just seemed that people just took it just that you were going to win in Cardiff, that even though you hadn't made a final, that you were going to win there. And I know that you were interviewed and you actually said it yourself, well, I haven't made a final yet, so, I need to make a final before I can actually try and win a Grand Prix. So I don't know how you felt when you turned up in Cardiff.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't as confident as a lot of fans were for me, but the way I was kind of thinking about it, it's a pretty similar event to Warsaw, and I did kind of struggle there with the track, quite a bit with the bike setup and things like that. Getting used to the indoor stadiums, and that was the only real thing I had to go off. So I think it's a little bit of a different event indoor, so that was the only background I had. So it was funny that so many people, they had pretty high expectations, but I think we learned a lot from Warsaw, and what we had was a lot better, and I think it showed, obviously.
Yeah, what are those differences? Because explain to us. I've been to Cardiff a lot. I've been to the Narodowy, and when you've got a roof, you're effectively riding indoors. How does that affect you as a rider, the atmosphere, and obviously, very importantly, bike setup?
Yeah, in Cardiff it was a little bit, different. In there, it was just so hot. It was like a sauna, to be honest. But the big thing was, in Warsaw, it's a GP, and you think you're gonna need what people would say is your best equipment, but that just put us in a bad direction, and you can only make your bike so soft at the end of the day. And in Warsaw, we just couldn't give it off enough, and just learned from that. We kind of knew after a few races that we were in a gunfight with a knife, and we just kind of brought a butter knife instead of a machete to Cardiff, and it was a lot nicer.
Yeah, brilliant.
There was a lot made of the track, obviously, in Cardiff, Dan, and the conditions I know weren't ideal, and there was discussions with riders. We saw Bartosz Szmarszlik, Leon Madsen, and having discussions with Phil Morris, and you're kind of stood there on the periphery, kind of chuckling to yourself a little bit, and sort of bring it on. What were the conditions actually like? Because you were managing to ride it pretty well. You won the tournament that day. A lot of fans have been going on about the track, but obviously no fan has ridden that. You were out there on your bike. What were the conditions like? And how did you have to, say, adjust your riding style, adjust your bike, or anything else you did to be able to cope with those conditions? Because I think it is accepted the track wasn't ideal, but obviously you made it work.
Yeah, it's tough to say because, depending on how your night was, it's obviously gonna, I had a good night, so I'm obviously gonna, obviously the track wasn't brilliant, but, for me, I enjoyed it. So, my view is going to be different to some other riders who might not have had as good a night. But, for me, I enjoyed it. There was some ruts on the track, and, I felt you could use them and you could get in them, and, honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought the track in Tetra was a lot worse. So, but I would say that I had a good result. But obviously it's not ideal. But I think with the heat in the stadium and maybe some other things, there maybe wasn't a lot they could do. So obviously it'd be nice if we could have maybe a track that produced more racing. But for me it was difficult. One race I had behind, but at the same time I didn't really think it was worth the risk in the qualifying heat to try and make a move. But if there was a chance in the final, I felt like if you needed to, there were some options on the track with some different routes if you could catch them right, to make some moves. But maybe not ideal, but for me it wasn't too bad.
You won the trophy for best overtake at Cardiff, though, so you must have done something right.
I can't comment on that one, to be honest.
Well, you rode superbly well, and quite clearly, one of the major reasons why is because clearly you enjoyed it. You relished the challenge of a tricky track, and quite possibly, that obviously it clearly affected other riders. But there are World Championship points up for grabs, aren't they? You got to go for it. You're at home. We haven't had a British winner for 15 years. Is that something you had thought about at all? Because you would have been a real youngster when Chris Harris won there in 2007. I don't know if you were there or you saw it or you witnessed it. But was that something that was going through your mind, that you felt that it was about time we had another British winner in the Principality Stadium?
It wasn't, to be honest with you, but I just think it's cool that Bomber won it, and it's cool that I've won it now. But I don't think too much of the history that's gone on in between there. I just kind of I support in the years gone by a bunch of different riders from a bunch of different countries, to be honest. So it's not something I think about too much, but at the same time it is pretty cool, and I see that with me and Rob getting back on the podium the last weekend gone too, it's the first time in a long time too. So there is some pretty cool things, but I don't think about it too much.
No, but it was an outstanding performance in the Principality. I know when you came out for the final, obviously talking over the draw for that final race in Cardiff, you came up, and when you got that gate 2, you had a beaming smile on your face. And I know that Chris Louis alongside me said, well, you looked like you were pretty happy about the way that worked out. Was that the case? Because you did seem absolutely chuffed to bits that you got gate number 2.
Yeah, I was almost going to go for gate 4 in the semi-final. And, I was just thinking maybe it's a little bit too risky, and I just thought, you just got to make a half decent start from the inside. But when I got there, I don't think gate 1 was that good really, and I think I was actually in the semi with Patrick, and he made it across me. So when he left it for me in the final, or however it worked out, as soon as I seen it, I thought, that's the best gate. So I was quite happy to get it, and. From then on, it just everything fell into place.
It was your first final at home in front of a big audience in the Principality Stadium. Nervous times. You didn't look nervous at all, because obviously those moments are key to success and proving yourself at the very highest level. Being on the start line there, you've seen the green light come on, and you absolutely nailed it. And you must have been feeling good. Because that's a moment when you've got to your first final, then achieving in it. How do you reflect on that? I know it was a wonderful win, it was a fantastic thing, but that really was the key to it, and you didn't miss it. You made an absolutely textbook start.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a daydream, but the biggest thing I remember is just how hot it was in there, and just getting to the start line and packing the route, and you obviously want to give yourself the best chance you can, but I remember just getting back on the bike, and my heart rate was probably through the roof just from packing the route with the heat and everything, and it was almost a pleasure to sit back down and just relax for 10 seconds before the green light came on. So that was the biggest thing I remember, to be honest, just thinking, thank God I've finished my route and can just chill for a minute, and then we were on, so it was good.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Talk us through that heat, though, as you remember it, because obviously you made that first turn, and from then it was a case. I mean, you were well clear, but did you realise how clear you were? Obviously, you got Bartosz Szmartlik and the other top riders of the night, top riders in the world behind you, and yet you've got clear air. At what moment did it dawn on you? I've got this. Because obviously the fans are willing you on, but the fans are probably thinking, don't break down, don't hit a rut, don't end up in the fence, whatever. But for you, you're in control of the whole thing, and I imagine that there was a point in that race you thought, we're home here. This is happening.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of had that feeling going down the back straight on the first lap, but I kind of thought the first 2 laps I just tried to check out and just try and catch the ruts out the corners and just check out a little bit, and then I seen Bartek was behind me, I think it was, and I kind of thought he probably wasn't going to do anything to try and get me, to be honest. The position he was in is a little bit different to mine. I've got everything to gain and nothing to lose, so he's in the midst of a world title fight, and I was 10th or whatever. So after that I kind of looked behind and just kind of cruised for a lap, and then you start thinking you don't want to cruise too much and catch a run and just lift and put yourself in the fence or something. But to be honest, after 2 laps I just cruised a little bit, and then come the last lap, I was starting to celebrate in my head, but just kind of you want to keep it under control. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. You still have to finish the job off. But on the back straight to the first lap, I felt like I had it. But it was 2 laps in where I thought, this is it now.
What a feeling when you came over the line, because obviously the fire goes off. Crowd going bonkers, Union flags everywhere. You're punching the air. Must have been a moment. Yeah,
it was, and I'm not sure if anything really ever compared to that, but it was a special night, and one I'll remember.
And rightly so. I do know that when you were interviewed afterwards, you said that you got really you almost froze, or you got tight on the bike after a couple of laps. So I guess that was probably part of the sort of the realisation that you were going to win.
Yeah, that's it. Come the second lap, when you kind of, know, you've got Bartek who's the leader in the world title, but at the same time, you don't expect any fight from him. There's, the way the track was, I think he was pretty happy with second, and obviously I was pretty happy with first. But when you've got nothing really to push for anymore, when you've just got to do 2 more laps, it's almost harder. You'd rather. If you've got to push and go fast, and you might technically, might be more risky, but at the same time, I think it's safer, when you try and get the most out of the bike. So, but it all worked out in the end, and just cruised it home. But I think my last 2 laps weren't as good as the first.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if there's one abiding memory of this season, Dan, that you would share with us, obviously we talked about Cardiff and stuff like that, but maybe something that's not off the track, not on the track, something that we won't have been party to. What's been your sort of personal highlight that you look back on, or something that makes you chuckle from this season, or you'll have great memories of it?
There's been a few, but I'll just give you this one because it might help me in the future. So, actually, after 2 rides in Rotterdam, I had a pretty big week on the motocross bike the week gone by, and I was kind of thinking maybe I overdone it because I was a little bit tight. My shoulders were a little bit tight, and I had a pretty big day on the beach on Thursday. So, 2 rides in, I was kind of thinking maybe I'd done too much, but towards the end of the night, I don't regret my choices, and maybe it was good. So we'll just keep doing what we're doing, and maybe just do 5 laps less next time. Keep the shoulders a little bit fresh.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I think all the very best to you, and I think everybody listening to this will share that as well. That what a terrific season you've had, and exciting times you know, you've got this confidence now of knowing you can do it. You know, there are riders that go through their entire careers and don't achieve what you've done in the last fortnight. You know, and now for you, you know, kick on and keep relaxed and enjoy it. I think, because I think there's exciting times ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, as far as what you just said about, you know, some riders and, you know, about the last 2 weeks, to be honest, you know, the way I look at it, you know, I watch a lot of riders and a lot of riders from the years gone by, and you know, when I watch myself, I don't see a rider that I feel like is as good as, you know, certain riders that, you know, would now have won less. You know, I feel like there is a hell of a lot to improve and to neaten up, and you know, I feel like the goal for this year was just to try and learn and get as much as we could for next year and the years after. But you know, I feel like my riding's getting better, and you know, obviously it's more consistent. But you know, there's certain things that, you know, I'd like to improve and just neaten up a little bit, and some mistakes. But you know, I think it's a tough one with Speedway. You know, we judge so much on our success, but I feel like there's been some riders out there that they've rode the bike incredibly well and done some really cool stuff. But you know, end of the day, it all comes down to, you know, people only remember the last race of the night. But you know, there's been some incredible rides, and you know, that were outside of the GPs or, you know, just not in the final. So you know, there's some great riders out there, and you know, maybe I might have won 2 GPs, but you know, there's some riders that haven't won 2 GPs that I still see as a lot better on the bike than me.
Oh, that's very humble of you, indeed, and I'm sure that that will resonate with them. But no, it's smashing. You know, I think that to give you time today has been fabulous. I really appreciate that, Dan. That's really kind of you, because I'm sure everybody wants to talk to you right now. You've got, I presume you are in Sweden. That's a Swedish bike. Are you going to do the big shop in the bike with the bag on the basket on the front there? I think that might look pretty cool, going down to your Lidl in wherever you are. Not quite sure what your diet is out in Sweden, but no, thanks ever so much for joining us, mate. That's it's very kind of you.
No worries. Thanks for having me.